Welcome to the briefing stage. At the briefing stage, you can review both your opponent's arguments and your own before submitting a brief. Because we're the respondent here, we can actually see the claimant's initial complaint by clicking on Opponent Documents. Here we can see the claimant brief. We can download the brief and see their relevant arguments before forming our own response. Going back, once we've figured out what we want our response to be, we click Briefs. We can then upload our relevant brief, but before we do that, check Pending Tasks. Under the Pending Tasks icon, we can first see the deadline, which is going to be February 4th at 11:59 p.m., and what we need to do. In this case, we need to submit briefs. Once we've prepared our brief, click Upload File. We're uploading the respondent brief. Click the respondent brief. It will upload, and then once we are ready, simply select Submit All. Alternatively, you can click Remove if you want to remove the respondent brief and re-upload a different file. For now, let's click Submit All. Now the briefing stage is completed. Once Arbitrus.ai receives documents from both sides, in this case, it will ask for a claimant final response. You will move on to the discovery phase. Briefing is complete. We move on to the discovery phase. During the discovery phase, both parties will have an opportunity to ask for relevant evidence and other documents for their case. Simply click on the Discovery button on the timeline, which will navigate you to the Discovery interface. Arbitrus has now confirmed that these briefs were submitted. You can see those briefs under Opponent Documents. Just like before, we were waiting on the claimant response, which is now populated there. You can also see the claimant has already uploaded their factual evidence. We'll look at that later. Now we can upload our own evidence. Let's just call it evidence as the respondent. Upload files. We'll have our own picture of the completed construction. And then click Submit All. Now our evidence is submitted, and you can see that under My Documents. But maybe we don't think the documents that the claimant submitted are accurate, or they're leaving something out. We can now click Request Documents. Now you can type in your objection. Here, just include something like, they did not include the relevant receipts for the construction. You can then push Submit Request when you're done. Of course, you can include a more comprehensive objection, likely including case law or anything relevant to the contract that might help support this proposition. But for simplicity's sake, let's just include this. Now, the opposing party will be notified by Arbitrus.ai and have an opportunity to upload more documents. Of course, Arbitrus.ai can also decide to reject your claim and continue on to the next step. Arbitrus has completed the discovery phase, we can move on to the hearing phase by clicking the hearing button on the timeline. We're now in the hearing. It is important to remember that Arbitrus.ai does not run a formal factual trial like you might see in drama television for a simple reason that the mechanisms of truth discernment are inefficient for an AI. There's no reason to cross-examine someone if that information's already been uploaded in a deposition. We've written a bit about that in our prior study, and we encourage you to read our white paper. Specifically, our systems examine the discovery evidence holistically. Instead of leaving it to the parties, the bot can decide which information is valuable and needs to be discerned in order to make a dispositive claim. Here, we see a question about Riverfront paying Crescent by date, and then asking why the rest of the funds were withheld. Let's answer it in a very simple fashion. We paid $60,000 up to date, and the remaining funds were withheld because the construction was incomplete. The second question, what were the specific deficiencies in Crescent Bay's works, and how were they documented? We took several photos of the floors not properly set. Now, in a real hearing, you might have a much more extensive answer to this. In that case, remember to use the Save button to save your work, or work on it outside of the system, perhaps in a Word document, a Google Drive, and then upload it. Regardless of the case, you can finally push Submit when you're finished. Now we can see the responses both on the claimant's side, they had number of questions and responses, and ours on the respondent's side. Now that the hearing is complete, we can proceed to the decision page. Now your decision is pending. Because of the complexity of Arbitrus.ai's systems, this could take up to 72 hours to process. The opinion of the arbitrator will automatically be populated under the Decision tab once it is ready. In this case for us, unfortunately, the claimant, Crescent Bay Builders LLC, has won $180,000 in this dispute. While this decision is final, you can always read the rule books to understand your grounds for appeal. And with that, we thank you for listening to this Arbitrus.ai tutorial series.